lifers, fellow campers, hey, welcome back. This is Casey again with Mountain Bluebird here behind me and VanTripping.com. Today we're going to talk about finishing walls, interior wall panels. All right. First of all, what did I use for my walls? I did not use plywood. I used no wood in this van other than my countertop and a couple of the drawers here, and that is it. And the reason why I didn't use any wood is because it absorbs moisture, and so it eventually will rot or break down, especially if you have any kind of water leak inside. It absorbs odors, and so campfire smells, cooking, things like that can absorb odors. It obviously eventually breaks down. Any kind of screws or bolts in it will eventually, the wood will weaken around those, or at least it can. Glue joints, not so much so, but it's difficult to keep really wood perfect in an environment like a van that is flexing as you drive and as you go off road. Those cabinets are flexing, it's causing stresses on them. You're obviously using it, you got dogs pounding against them or even walking over stuff, you got kids bumping into stuff, you're kicking your ski boots into things, you're throwing a mountain bike in and it rubs up against stuff, it scratches, pedal and handlebar scratches. Things like that happen, right? And so I want to be able to just throw skis in, ski boots, bikes, not have to worry about it. So hence why I went with all this heavy duty, plastic and aluminum framing and the high density polyethylene plastic. And I also want to kind of do the same with the wall panels. I want to make sure it's something that wouldn't absorb odors or moisture, that it couldn't combust, it wouldn't create sawdust when I had to drill into it, or create thermal transfer, which wood does all those things. So what did I go with? This expanded PVC foam. And so the great thing about this, there's a few different names for this, but expanded PVC foam is kind of the probably more typical term. I use 1/4 inch. You can see flexing it, I can flex it a little bit there, but I'm using a lot of force to flex that. And it takes a lot of force to break it, even though by no means, 1/4 inch of this is not super strong, but it's got a pretty good impact resistance. It's really pretty hard to break it if you'd have to really work at it. It does flex, so it'll flex with the walls, because the van walls, they curve in a lot. And this will absorb zero moisture, zero odors. So you could dunk this in water, it's not gonna matter. This is the same material used for actually water pipes. And it also is non-combustible, meaning it won't ignite. And so I keep a fire extinguisher right here by the slider door, so I can grab it on my way in or out. If there happens to be a fire that gets started, I always keep one of the back doors. You should always have two, just in case one you run out or you can't get to the other one quickly or at all, because if this area was on fire, I want to be able to get to a fire extinguisher or get out another way, so hence one of the back doors. This cannot combust. I actually experimented with that when I was building out my van, and I can prove that it does not ignite. You can pretty much try to light this stuff on fire, which I did, and it just self-extinguishes. So whatever the fuel is that you put on it is what's going to burn, not this itself. And so that's awesome. So it's safe to use in a van where you could have a fire from cooking or something else, electrical short, whatever it may be. It cuts really easily. Just a simple jigsaw, band saw, circular saw, whatever, just standard blades. It almost doesn't matter what kind of blade you use, it will cut. And it doesn't create the sawdust when you're cutting it. So it's really easy to clean up compared to sawdust. You can drill holes through it, and believe it or not, it accepts screws very well. And so you can actually put screws into this and it'll hold them relatively well, quite strongly. So strongly that actually I screwed my electrical fuse panels to this stuff right here. That is my electrical fuse panels are screwed to that. And the other benefit of this, unlike wood as well, it's dielectric. It's non-conductive. So it can't conduct electricity, unlike wood, which can conduct electricity. So it just was a win all the way around. It's also not only cheaper and lighter than plywood. This is, when I built this out back in 2017, plywood was way less expensive than it is now, and this was still cheaper, and it is undoubtedly lighter too. The other benefit of it, and this was the big reason why I went to it, or one of the big reasons, is I could get this in panels instead of 4 feet wide, 4 by 8 foot sheets of plywood. I get this in panels that were 60 inches wide. 60 inches wide. I could give them multiple different lengths. I think from 7 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet, I think even 16 feet. But the bottom line is I could get this in 60 inches wide. And why did that matter? Hang on, let me show you. The expanded PVC foam panels coming in 60 inches wide, or any other material coming that width, was key in the Mercedes Sprinter van, because almost all of the wall cavities, going from basically the vertical structural elements, are called the studs in these wall cavities, and almost all the wall cavities are around 50 inches to 52 inches, and I think one was even 54 inches wide. So you cannot span that with a 48-inch piece of plywood. So then you got to cut it lengthwise, which means you end up cutting 13 different pieces for a standard 170-inch wheelbase Sprinter, non-extended Sprinter. 13 pieces you have to install. So if we look at this door right here, that's all 59.5 inches, 59.5 inches for just this door. So the internal panel of that is going to be like 55 inches or so, because you got a few inches on each side for the structure. So that means you have to have, just to fill in this void here, right, you got to cut the plywood lengthwise, wasting so much of it, right, or use 2 pieces and have a gap in the middle, and that's a real pain. So with this expanded PVC coming in 60 inches, I could fully span every one of those wall sections. That allowed me to go from 13 pieces of plywood, as most people do in a Sprinter 170 Sprinter van, down to 5. That's it, 5. They go from ceiling to floor, 1 panel on the slider and 2 behind the slider on the passenger side, and 3 down the length of the driver's side.
Is that 5? Maybe I'm doing math wrong. Anyways, is it 5 or 6? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Maybe it's 6. How do I get 5?
Because the slider door doesn't need a whole panel, because you only really have this lower section you can cover. So it only takes really part of a panel. So it's really 5 whole panels and then part of another panel. So there you go. Fantastic improvement right there. Okay, so got the wall panels. Now let's go into how I covered them, how I finished them. So with this expanded PVC foam, I then took some 1/8 inch. This is made for vehicles and boats and things like that, but it's 1/8 inch thick. It's kind of a soft foam. And so I glued this on with an adhesive and wrapped it around the edges. So it'd sit like that, and I would wrap it around, cut it to a few inches wider than the panel, and wrap this around and staple it on the back. And I did that just to kind of give this a little cushion, a little extra insulation. I think it was completely unnecessary. I don't think it really added any value. If anything, it actually made the fabric, the one on the outside, more baggy. But nonetheless, that's the way I did it. Fabric, I went with instead of the typical interweave kind of tight carpeted fabric, I wanted it waterproof and easy to clean. And so I went with a marine grade fabric. I have a whole roll of it left up here, but I didn't want to pull the whole roll down. But it comes in, dozens of colors. It's, believe it or not, it's waterproof, not just water repellent. It does clean up really easily when you get dirt and stuff on it, like a mountain bike handlebar rubs against something. You just take a towel and it pretty much just wipes right off. Smack a bug up against the wall, a fly or something. It just cleans right off. I know, it's a reality when you're camping, right? And so that's what I used. I like the fact that it's waterproof. I have a shower inside here, so a little water sprays, no big deal. The sink sprays around, it's no big deal. It just sheets right off and dries. I like that. I like the fact it's easy to clean. It's thin and light. It's made for boats and RVs, so it's safe to use in them. It meets the flame spread requirements and all that stuff. It won't really collect any dust or dirt or anything like that, like even a tight weave carpet will. The downside is, this is my first time ever doing any upholstery work. I did not do a great job with it, and consequently, I did not get it really adhered very well. I'm going to give you a tour of that next, but nonetheless, let's get on to the next part. This I've cut, again, bigger than the panel, wrap it around, glue the edges, staple them around the edges, and voila, we got our panels. Now, let's go to the inside of the walls. I'm going to give you more details on this, or I already did in my previous video, my insulation video. I went those details. Just want to show you a little more on that. So first of all, we have the thin slate. All right, this is the thin slate right here. This is what it looks like, just so you know. It's basically about 1.5 inches thick. Thin slate, it's like SML 600 or something like that. It's got a scrim on one side, and then it's got the fuzzy stuff on the other. It adheres to the metal panels very easily with a spray adhesive. You don't need a lot of it, and then it just tacks right on and you're done. I would cut all the panels to the actual dimensions of the wall cavities and adhere it in, and then if I could fit a second piece, I would do that and just stack it on top of the first one. And I may go backwards or forwards on the next one, depending on how it would best fit or adhere. I would cut this in little strips and stuff it into all the different little pockets in the structure frame and everything. So everything, I wasn't just filling the wall cavities and leaving the structural frame completely uninsulated, which, you know, would need a lot of thermal transfer points. Instead, I completely pulled this through all of those, and oftentimes it'd be a lot of strips of this through the ceiling joist, through the wall vertical joist, all of it, and it really took a lot. I forget the exact square footages I bought, but
we're at square yards in length.
because I think I had bought a roll of 60 and another roll of 50, and I ended up using almost all of it. This is about all I have left. I did use quite a bit also in the doors, front doors, the rear doors, the slider door. Filled all those pockets up very, very well. Here we go. This is the reflective foam core insulation I used. It looks just like Reflectix, which is different. You kind of buy that at Home Depot or Lowe's. This I bought from Impact 3D. They have an eBay store. It actually is a foam in between. It isn't just bubble wrap in between. So you can squeeze this, it's not going to pop. This is foam. So it actually has more of an insulated value, and it's got this nice reflective barrier on each side. So I showed you that in my last video on how I insulated, even seamed all the seams covered up with foil tapes that are completely airtight. This right here is the Reflectix bubble wrap, and see, that is basically a bubble wrap. It's just air in there, it's not foam. I was given this roll by somebody who was done with it, and I've used it in a few little spots for just kind of a little extra insulation, or more for like creating a little wire conduit or pass through, or for some other projects like kind of wrapping the water tanks underneath the van, just to give them a little bit of insulation. So that's what I've used that for. That's really good for those kinds of things, particularly outside things, because it really can't absorb any moisture or anything like that. In parts of the van where, like in the cab, the floor and the firewall and stuff like that, this was one of the things I used. This is made by a Noiko, who also makes a sound deadening mat. This is not a sound deadening mat, but it does have the same effect. It's just it's a really nice lightweight foam that's got this incredible adhesive backing. So you peel this plastic off, and once you peel it off and you put it on something, you are scraped. There's no way it's coming off without scraping it off. It is stuck. And so make sure that when you go to put this on, you've got it cut to dimensions you want, and you got the space clean. And once you start peeling it, start with your edge and just start rolling it out. If you get a wrinkle in it, it's hard to get that wrinkle out, if not impossible. So really be really careful about how you apply that on. And speaking of that, when I applied this fabric and the foam to the PVC panels, I used a roller, a big roller to push this out. I should have had it here to show you, but you can get these on Amazon or places, of course, and that just kind of rolled out the adhesive. This stuff, one of the challenges with it, the adhesive actually can soak through if you use too much, and then actually stain it on the other side, like a water stain. So you have to not use too much. You got to kind of let it get a little tacky first, let it dry for a minute or two, then apply this. Don't apply this stuff wet, and that kind of goes for almost anything with the spray adhesive. So now that I got my brand new van, I've cut the holes in and installed the windows and fully insulated the interior. Here's what it looks like. Alright, so you can see these are my rear panels, and you can see from that corner all the way up to this midpoint here is only one long wide panel. That right there is about 4.5 feet, and then it disappears to the next one. You can see on this side, same thing, to behind that cabinet. So that's it. That's 1 and 2 big panels on this side, and then 3 all the way up to the front on this driver's side. In the rear corners here, I did these
This is how I did my fit out here to cover up these rear corners. I really did not like the way these painted rear corners looked, so I went ahead and covered them up. I've got the rear door attachment point or connection point here that spins out, and so that will connect in just fine there. Or I can pull this in. That comes out. And so this door can also swing open 180, and then right back in there and closed. So I also have in the back here, you can see a really robust handle, some really strong attachment points. This is an L track right here. It's really the only thing I screwed in. This does curve a little bit because the van wall also curves in this way. But that gives me an incredibly strong attachment point, and I can put these things here and I can take them out and I can slide them in different points here to attach them. And so they lock in when they're in the right spot. And there you go, they're locked in. They think they're rated for like 1,000 pounds or maybe even a little more than that. And you can see I also put these cargo nets on the side. These are also the other thing I bolted in, and I have this L track actually goes right over the middle section, so I have this lower section here, and then I have this upper section for that. I also did some little L track up here, and this area some hooks and things, and some nets here and nets there with their little L track I connect things into. Let's see, and then also have this really strong what I call the wheel well carrier, because the wheel wells are right here, and you can see how I've insulated. So I insulated over it this very nice strong rubber cover that is fully sealed all the way around, with the wall overlapping the top of that. Same thing with the nets and stuff on this side, the wheel well cover. Another thing to point out too is that I needed a tank vent line, which is what this is right here. This is for my rear tank, and it's a vent that runs across so that it can connect over to this side, to the tank over on this side. So all my vents come out, and they all come out to this one spot in the back. I've done a video on that in the past to talk about that and why I did my water fill and my water vent all inside. So they don't freeze, no bugs or dirt, dust can get in there, no one can mess with the water supply. So you can see how also I have no seams in the wall here. Plastic acrylic, this acrylic here is double sided with the lights in the middle of it, and so I have this nice solid wall behind it. And then to slowly show you a little bit how I framed out around the window here. I tried to make it as smooth and continuous as possible, and also overlap the metal window frame because it is metal, and of course it's therefore not going to insulate well. And this is how I ended up forming out this whole back area here. So again, the metal frame is all the way sealed all around, or covered up, the window frame with this nice foamed wall panel. And again, it's one continuous wall panel. I have another map pocket right here. Of course, the maps on it, maps behind the seats. And you can see again, this wall panel is continuous all the way down to the floor, all the way up above the cabinet, all the way to the ceiling. The same with the other wall panels everywhere. So again, if we turn on some of these other lights here, you can see this wall panel that's behind the kitchen goes all the way up and continues all the way to the very back till there. So that's my two panels for this side. Turn those lights on there, and then the 1, 2, and then this is the third one that's here. So it makes for a very nice continuous space. My next videos, I will go over my floor and also my finished ceiling, which is fully illuminated all the way from front to back and continuous. I look forward to sharing that with you in my next video.